Why is finding love such a daunting task? One has to tread through countless rejections just to step on the starting line. Are there shortcuts to make others fall in love with you instantly? Welcome back to Marc the Beginning. We share information about men's health, psychology, mental health, and mindfulness. If you are interested in these topics, make sure to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on our new content each week. In today's video, we're going to talk about a study conducted by Arthur Aron and his colleagues in 1997, titled The Experimental Generation of Interpersonal Closeness, which later referred to as the 36 Questions That Lead to Love. Before we dive into these 36 questions that miraculously make people fall in love with you, let's go back in time to 2015. Mandy Len Catron wrote an essay, "To Fall in Love with Anyone, Do This," for the Modern Love column, and it became one of the most popular articles published in the New York Times. Mandy was experiencing a breakup when she first read the study of 36 Questions That Lead to Love. With a broken heart and a tormented mind, she turned to science, hoping for a solution to love smarter. Since she read the study, Mandy had always wanted to try the experiment. One day, she ran into her university acquaintance at the climbing gym and thought that it might be a good idea to invite him to participate in the test. So she slid into his DMs on Instagram and asked him out. They met up in a bar, and with a bit of skepticism, she explained the study to him. A heterosexual man and woman enter the lab through separate doors. They sit face to face and answer a series of increasingly personal questions. Then they stare silently into each other's eyes for 4 minutes. 6 months later, the two participants were married. They invited the entire lab to the ceremony. "Let's try it," her university acquaintance said. Unfortunately, they couldn't replicate the exact environment and setting of the experiment that night. First, they were in a bar, not a lab. Second, they weren't strangers. But nonetheless, Mandy Googled Dr. Aron's 36 questions. They are divided into 3 sets with 12 questions each. Mandy and her acquaintance read out the questions and answered them one by one. As they went further down the list, the questions got more and more intimate. Because the level of vulnerability increased gradually, they didn't realize until they were at the point where it would normally take weeks or months for 2 people to ask such personal questions. At the end, the 2 finished at midnight, taking far longer than the 90 minutes for the original study. But there is a second part of the experiment, staring into each other's eyes for 4 silent minutes. They both felt a sudden wave of shyness. Their faces were flushing while feeling it would be weird to do so in the pub, so he suggested to head over to the bridge outside. According to Mandy, just the thought of staring into someone's eyes for 4 minutes were terrifying enough, let alone with an acquaintance. She gathered all her strength just to keep hold of herself and to breathe properly. Mandy tried her best to stay calm and looked into his eyes. From feeling horrified to feeling wonderful, time seemed to flow slower and slower. A sense of bravery passed through Mandy's mind as she was facing her own vulnerability. When the timer finally buzzed, she felt a little relief, but at the same time she also felt a sense of loss. Everything that happened that night seemed so surreal to her as she recalled it, and that is how the evening ended. You may probably wonder, did Mandy and her university acquaintance fall in love eventually? Well, I will leave the answer till the end of the video. First, let me show you Dr. Aron's 36 Questions That Leads to Love. Here are some instructions to keep in mind if you decide to try it out yourself. Participants should both acknowledge the purpose and detail of the experiment before starting out. There are 3 sets of questions. Participants should start with the first set. One of the person reads aloud the first question and answer it. The other person then give the answer to that question and read the next question aloud, so on and so forth. Do not skip any questions. Participants can choose not to answer any questions if they don't feel comfortable with them, but the questions must be asked and answer in order. Participants should always be truthful in their answers. The original experiments were conducted with a 45-minute time limit, 15 minutes for each set of questions. Even if there are questions do not finish within the 15 minutes period, participants should move on to next set of questions. But later on, people removed the time constraint on this experiment, allowing participants to take all the time they need to finish the 36 questions. Just make sure there is enough time and not rushing through them. The second part of the experiment, where participants have to stare into each other's eyes, wasn't in the original study. The concept of maintaining eye contact for 4 minutes as part of an intimacy-building exercise has become popular in the context of the 36 questions in media and was later added as the second part of the experiment. Okay, now, you know the guidelines of the experiment. Let's go over the questions on the list. 1. Given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest? 2. Would you like to be famous? In what way? 3. Before making a telephone call, do you ever rehearse what you are going to say? Why? 4. What would constitute a perfect day for you? 5. When did you last sing to yourself? To someone else? 6. If you were able to live to the age of 90 and retain either the mind or body of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, which would you want? 7. Do you have a secret hunch about how you will die? 8. Name 3 things you and your partner appear to have in common. 9. For what in your life do you feel most grateful? 10. If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be? 11. Take 4 minutes and tell your partner your life story in as much detail as possible. 12. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained any one quality or ability, what would it be? For the rest of the questions, I will put them up here. Feel free to pause the video if you want to read them. You can also download the PDF with the full list of questions from the description below. Most of Dr. Aron's study focused on generating interpersonal closeness. It revealed that structured, reciprocal self-disclosure can significantly accelerate intimacy between strangers. Aron viewed this process as mimicking natural relationship development, emphasizing the role of shared vulnerability in fostering connection. While acknowledging individual differences and cultural factors, he saw the procedure as having potential applications beyond romantic relationships. Aron stressed that while the method could create temporary feelings of closeness, it didn't guarantee lasting relationships. He considered the study a valuable tool for exploring the mechanics of human connection, opening new avenues for research in social psychology. So, as I promised earlier, did Mandy and her university acquaintance fall in love at the end? Yes, they did. Does it entirely credit to the study? According to Mandy, she felt it may have happened anyways, so it is hard to judge the effectiveness of the 36 questions experiment. However, it did give them a foundation or tools to build up the intimacy that night, which led to them eventually falling in love. Finally, there was a quote from Mandy I really like. "Love didn't happen to us. We're in love because we made the choice to be. I hope you find the love you deserve. Always remember, you matter. I will see you in the next video."